what we will realize is that it all starts with the domain name, and that it's critically important to appreciate that as we move in a 4IR space or Internet of Things, that the domain name becomes a critical component for communication, for establishing your digital identity and your online presence. But with that comes great responsibility on our part in terms of ensuring that the domain names that are under our management are done in a way that is secure, reliable, robust, and basically ensuring that the end user community is satisfied that measures are put in place in order to ensure that domain name abuse, data breaches do not take place in this ever-evolving ecosystem. Apart from the .za SLDs that we manage, we also have 4 GTLDs, or what we call top-level domain names that we manage, which are the .durban, .joburg, Cape Town, and .africa domain names. And I head the legal and policy division at the ZA Central Registry. I'll stop there for now.
Thank you so much, Ms. Budu. Mr. Dundas, the floor is yours. Neil Dundas, can you hear me? All right. I think there's something wrong with Neil Dundas. He can hear me, but for whatever reason, we cannot hear him. Could you please try to...
Peter, I'm sorry, you've just allowed me to, you've just enabled my microphone. Thank you for that. Let me just, well, I can't activate my video, my webcam, because that's enabled on your side, but I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Neil Dundas. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Domain Name Services, Pty Limited. We're the registry service provider or the technical partner to the ZA Central Registry. I work closely with Simla, who's just introduced herself, and my personal background is that I am a qualified attorney. I practiced as a trademark and IP attorney for many years. And I was quite instrumental in the establishment of the alternate dispute resolution mechanisms for the .za namespace. And I've also had extensive experience with using the GTLD UDRP processes that ICANN has made available for GTLD dispute resolution processes. So I have a mixed bag of expertise and experience. But generally, it sort of falls towards the technical and the technical legal side of things.
All right. Thank you, Dundas. If you can please activate your video as well. For those who don't know you,
you need to enable it on your side. I don't have that option on my client at the moment.
All right. No, thank you. Cedric, can you please work on that? All right. All right. Thanks, Dundas. Ms. Noma Fesa, please continue from where Dundas left. Noma Fesa, can you hear me? Please continue. All right, Cedric and Lerato, could you please work on the microphones and video for the panelists? I think there's some limitations that you have given them there. Norma, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Could you please switch on the video? please.
I'm having connection problems at the office, so the network is very slow. We had load shedding, so we connected via the.
All right, please continue and introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do, and who do you represent, actually. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon to you.
Everyone. My name is Noma FSM Mwaita. From Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. I work at the ICT Infrastructure Branch in Cybersecurity Operations Unit. Thank you.
Thanks, Noma. Thanks, Noma. All right, colleagues, the discussion today it's about the critical internet resources that we have, especially on various issues. We have specifically chosen the domain name abuse, but we don't want you to limit it to specifically that. You can go beyond the domain name use, who is access, and I think Dundas, part of what you have just said to us, that you also a qualified attorney. So on issues of the law enforcement, on processes of domain name abuse, I hope you'll touch on that. I'm not sure if Pakamile Kumalo is part of the panel, but I did not get a name. Colleagues, you'll guide me if I miss something there. All right. Maybe let me start with Simla. Simla, as the registry of the biggest domain name holders, I'm talking about, and I also want to believe that we're still leading in terms of in Africa, in terms of the numbers within the domain name space. We are roughly around nearly 1.3, over 1.2 million. We remain number one in Africa. And that on its own, it means even when it comes to challenges, we'll be the first one to experience that, and we'll be the first one to even know how do we address such. So to date, Simla, what would you say these are the common common issues around the domain name abuse? And as the registry, what are the challenges that you guys have, and what do you think will be the best way to address that? Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. You're absolutely right. We are the registry of choice across Africa. And obviously within the ZA SLD space, we boast over 1.25 million domain names. And from a domain abuse perspective, what we see common, and let's just start with the COVID pandemic conditions. Historically, we identified gov.za domain names that were top of mind when it came to abusive practices. However, during COVID period, we found that there was a decrease in those domain name registrations, and there was an increase in domain names variables relating to COVID or Corona or other derivatives of that particular domain name. But what we do at the registry is that we don't just look at abusive practices in a narrow way, in terms of just spamming and phishing, etc. We look at IP infringement matters. We are looking at abusive practices that start at the point of registration, for example, where end users would submit incorrect WHOIS information. We look at domain names that are used in passing off as another brand, etc. And it's important to bear that in mind, because each of those abusive practices lends itself to a different process that takes place in terms of how you would deal with it, in terms of notifying, in terms of investigation, in terms of referrals to the law enforcement agencies, etc. One of the challenges, obviously, that we've had is that human beings, by their very nature, if they have a criminal propensity, it's extremely difficult to change their mind I'm not sure if education or awareness or any other mitigation tool will be sufficient to change the mind of somebody who just wants to undertake an abusive practice. So that's one thing. I mean, we don't live in that era where people live in terms of universal moral standards or in terms of virtual theories and are inherently good or aspire to only do good. So that's one of the challenges, and it's a people challenge. You know, it's a psychological challenge, or whatever other term you want to describe, ascribe to it. From a sorry, I've lost my thought, but yeah, let me just stop there for now, and I'll get back to it later. Oh, sorry. One of the things that we have realized is that whilst we have a relationship with the various law enforcement agencies, one thing that does not happen is the report back. And let me explain. So when we receive complaints of domain names that are being used for perpetration of fraud or any other commercial issue, we would investigate and we would refer the domain name to a particular law enforcement agency. Now, what happens is that once that communication goes to law enforcement, we are not sure of what happens beyond that point. And so one of the things that we would want to see happening is that there is a greater synergy, that there is a dedicated advisory body or committee that is created so that we can actually provide an end-to-end support solution to those complaints that relate to fraud or any other criminal offense within the domain name or technology sector. So that would be something that we would like to explore further.
Thanks, Simla. Much appreciated. Dundas, your perspective on what Simla just mentioned now, in terms of the domain name.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Sorry, you just went blank there for a second. Yeah, I mean, generally, with whatever Simla said there, I 100% concur and agree. I think my slight difference is that I believe that generally, the vast majority of people that utilize domain names and utilize the internet are, do have a moral compass and are law abiding and act in an ethical way. But obviously, as people that provide the core infrastructure for the internet, we always have to cater for the exceptions, and this is where the exceptions really come in where there's abuse, or abuse really comes in where there's the exceptions. And so it's sort of that 80-20 rule. You have to spend a lot of your time on those exceptions and managing them and mitigating the risk that sort of flows economically and operationally and technically to the broader industry. As Simla mentioned, the one instance, I think it was in her introduction, she mentioned the potential fraudulent activities around spoofing government websites or .gov websites. And that was pretty. There was a high intensity of those type of registrations just prior to COVID, and it almost looked like they were gaining in momentum. So I think the legal department within the registry and a lot of registrars themselves had their hands full with trying to manage the potential fallout from these attempted frauds, fraudulent activities against the public. And I know a lot of people were duped by that, and I'm sure that the registry worked very closely with law enforcement in reporting these issues, and obviously, hopefully, the law enforcement authorities were able to take the necessary action and to stop it. This still happens from time to time. If it's not a spoofed gov site, it would be a financial services site. And so the registry or the technical providers constantly have to keep their eyes open and their ears open and try as best as they can to mitigate these risks. Unfortunately, how it works in the domain name industry in particular is a lot of the actions that are available to the authorities, and in particular the technical parties involved in the industry, it's very reactionary. So we, in many instances, are looking to react upon a potential abuse, and it's very seldom that we're able to act, with any ahead of time in order to prevent a lot of them, because people are the abusers, as Simla said, sometimes are very inventive, and they get new ways of actually abusing the system and the rules. So in a lot of instances, the policies and the procedures that the registry has and the authority may have in this is very much focused on reacting to abusive activities. And a case in point is the dispute resolution regulations that were introduced in 2007. That's predominantly to protect against rights abuses, intellectual property rights abuses. That's very much a reactionary sort of process. So when there's an abuse of registration, a complaint can be lodged against that, and then there's a legal process that follows from that in order to determine whether that registration is an abusive registration, whether corrective action needs to be taken. So it's, in a way, as I said, we're dealing with exceptions here, but those exceptions sometimes are very harmful, can cause a lot of damage. And in many instances, the registry and the authority have to react to these instances as and when they arise. And I will agree with Simla that it would be very, very useful to actually understand the full flow of these matters once they're reported to law enforcement, to actually get a better idea of the level of success that law enforcement has been able to achieve with some of these instances that have been highlighted to them. And that will give us a better idea of possibly how we can improve our mitigation strategies going forward in order to somehow prevent or react to these abusive instances going forward. Other than that, I think the key thing for us is that as a registry, one of the jobs that we would have was a technical provider in this industry. One of the jobs we would have is to try and create an environment where people are providing accurate information to the registry, so that this can, in the worst case scenario, assist law enforcement and rights enforcement parties from implementing the necessary strategies. And because of privacy concerns and various other technical considerations, it could be that people aren't providing complete or accurate information into the registry. So the value of the registry data going forward could potentially be deteriorating in terms of its effectiveness in assisting law enforcement to actually identify nefarious parties or activities using the domain name system. So we have to ensure in some way or another, by looking at issues around privacy and rights protection, that we encourage registrars and the public to provide accurate and complete information into the registry, and we need to give them the confidence that we'll look after that information well and that we won't disclose it and won't be abused. But without that accurate information, the value of the domain registry data diminishes over time. That's it really from my side. I think there's a lot of success to be told about the ADR process, but maybe we can do that in a follow-up question. And I think both the Gov spoof sites and some of the COVID spoof sites that we've seen over the last 24 months, I think there was a relatively good reaction from the registry as far as that goes, and the only opportunity for us is to actually improve on that going forward. But I think there is fertile ground for us to actually work closer with law enforcement and the intellectual property community in protecting against these infringements and abuses going forward. That's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Dundas. We appreciate that. Norma FSR, do you want to come in and show and share your perspective But before that, colleagues, I want to encourage you to send questions on chat or on Q&A so that the panelists could be able to address such. I've noted one from Kodishang, but let's give Nomai first a time to also share her perspective on this issue. Nomai Fesa, please go ahead. Norma, can you hear us? I think we lost her. I think we lost Norma, but let me, before I go back to you, let me get questions. Let me just get these two questions here. There's a question that is coming from Kodishang, who says, what about we use blockchain technology? It is better for record keeping and can be missed with. We can treat domain name registration like RICA, and users must provide their actual info in order to register, or rather integrate that into the EPP system. Dundas, do you wanna comment on that?
I was busy typing a response. I'm not 100% sure of how that could be applied in the domain name environment. Perhaps it's something to explore and I'm missing something, but in essence, what you have when it comes to the registry environment is that the registrars are integrating and interacting with the registry, and you don't have access for validation purposes to the end users, to the registrants and that. So I'm not 100% sure if that's a workable solution. Perhaps between registrars and their users, there's some element that could be explored, but offhand, I can't see how that fits in a workable way in the registry environment.
Thanks, Dundas. Thanks for the comment. Nomai Fesa, do you want to share your perspective to us?
Thank you, colleagues. From the cyber security perspective, we receive a lot of complaints about domain abuse from locally, internationally, and across Africa, like Zambia, Japan. And most of the time, the domain abuse incidents, they are about phishing websites, compromised websites, where a legitimate website is used for attacks. For example, a script will be embedded, and that script will request user information, and it will appear as if it's a South African website. So we will receive those complaints, and what we do in terms of resolving those is to work with different organizations like ISPA, SABRIC, the Cyber Crimes Unit, SAPS, and also with the registry. Most of domain abuse complaints, we forward them to Ms. Pillay Mireshni. He has received a lot of those incidents from us. So as the hub, we work as a coordinator in terms of resolving or assisting in the takedown notices for the websites that are fake. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Norma. Let me bring Ms. Budi, Simla. Is this abuse affecting the growth of the domain names in this country? If so, what will be the percentage?
So that's quite a difficult question, based on the fact that although we maintain a database of abusive domain names relating to gov.za and COVID, that may not necessarily extend to the normal domain names that are used for abusive practices. So one would have to have a database from which you can make that kind of assessment. Just well, not hypothetically, but just as an indication on domain name growth during the COVID period, what we saw was that there was, whilst there was a growth, an increase in abusive domain name registrations, at the same time, there was a greater growth rate within the general domain name environment for the .za SLDs. So I'm not sure whether that, you can draw or make certain assumptions about whether abusive domain name practices are in fact determinant of your growth trajectory within the namespace itself.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Simla. Dundas, if you may come in here as well. So, in these kind of abuses for these, especially I'm looking at the ZA domain names. Do we see, are they coming in a particular trend of specific domains, or they're happening randomly on any domain name?
So, I mean, I'm not really 100% up to speed with the, let's call it the nefarious activities around the likes of the Gov spoof sites and the problematic COVID registrations. That's something that I think Simla would be more afraid with. But when you look at, for instance, the rights protection instances that where the ADR, for instance, the alternate dispute resolution regulations apply, then the general trend prior to 2018 was that every year there was an increased number of complaints lodged against ZA second level domains. That peaked around about 2018 with 55 cases lodged in 2018. And that represented, of 55 cases, that represented 59 domain names. So not a huge amount, but then you need to realize that for a matter to get to the ADR level, there's probably a lot of pre-work that's going into following up with a domain name registrant and trying to settle a matter or trying to enforce rights. And it's only when it gets into the ADR process that we have these stats. So 55 cases peak in 2018. And then interestingly enough, even though the domain space has been growing and it grew pretty well last year we only had 25 cases out of the whole year where there were abusive registrations or deemed abusive registrations, and those related to 37 different domain names. So if you rely on the statistics alone, you've almost got a counter culture. It looks like the domain numbers are going up and the number of abusive registrations is going down. So maybe it's people are towing the line a little bit better. Maybe they're concerned about the rules and regulations that are out there and that they can't get away with abusive activities. Maybe there's more morality. Maybe it's just a dip in the stats that we're seeing because of COVID. But generally, we know the numbers of the number of domain registrations have been going up. I think it's close to 1.3 million now, but the number of complaints every year is going down. So that tells you something, I guess.
Peter,
Yes.
may I just add on what we've observed with the Gov and the COVID registrations? So with Gov, in the early days, about 2 years ago, we were seeing more than 10 to 20 gov.za domain names being used within the SLD environment. That has gradually decreased to at least 2 per week as things stand currently, which means that some of the measures that we put in place in terms of flagging these domain names, in terms of engaging with our channel partners and relying on collaboration with our registrars are sending out a message that we, even though it's a reactionary process, that we are taking these things seriously. With the COVID domain name registrations, what we saw is that in the early days of lockdown, that is March 2020 till about September, there was definitely an increase in the domain in COVID domain name variables being registered. And then there was a quiet period, which meant that we were between October and currently, where we can see that there's a gradual decline in registrations. If at all, we are receiving at about 2 domain name registrations that relate to COVID-19. But also just to add specifically on the COVID-19 registrations, what we do is that apart from flagging those registrations, we go one step further and we look at the websites that are associated with those domain names. Now, we have to appreciate, as the registry, we are not a website, we don't host website, we don't deal with websites, but what we did at a face value, just looking at the information that's posted on those websites, we found that they were different, it gave us different results in terms of some of these websites actually didn't have, some of these domain names didn't have websites attached to them. Some had content that was not fraud, didn't have any content which suggested fraudulent activity. Of the 1,000, about 1,200 domain names that were registered, only about 10 of those raised a flag in terms of fraudulent activity, which required us then to look further into what was going on and then reporting it to law enforcement. So, and those results are reported to our regulator as well in terms of the statistics and in terms of what interventions are being taken on a monthly basis.
All right. Thanks, Sim.
Sure.
I think you answered my question that I wanted to ask you in terms of how many of those do you find them to be to be meant especially for fraud purposes? So I think you have answered that. Let me just check the questions here. I think there is it a question or comment that's coming from Paul. He says spoof sites and misinformation is a problem, creeping in not infrequently with the DCC process at Real 411. He said, I'm not aware of any clear processes by which a fraudulent phishing site that is within the domain of .co.za or any .za generally can be expeditiously addressed on the domain level. Dundas, do you wanna comment on that as well?
If it relates to a sort of a spoof site, then a website alone, and the domain name is not confusingly similar or identical to an existing domain name or a trademark, then I agree there wouldn't be a mechanism to really tackle that at a domain name level or at a registry level. You would then turn to possibly something like ISPA's takedown process, and they've just actually recently released their report to the authorities, and they've actually got in that report the number of takedown processes that they've attended to in the past year, and that would be focused more on sort of the hosting and the content related side. So there are other mechanisms outside of the domain industry that people that have fallen victim to spoofed websites and the like can take action against. On the domain name side, in the GTLD space, you've got something called I think it's called a uniform rapid response process, which is equivalent to a takedown on the domain level. But you don't have that same process in ZA yet in terms of the ADR regulations. So the process is a little bit more drawn out. It's still quicker than going via a court litigation process, but you have a mechanism that is relatively cost effective and fairly quick in order to challenge a spoofed domain name if it affects your personal rights. In other words, it's not a criminal activity, it is a intellectual property infringement or something like that. There is a mechanism you can use that is fairly expeditious and fairly cost effective in order to challenge that registration. And as I pointed out earlier, there's there's about 55 to 30 cases per year on average that focus around those. But perhaps it's time at some stage in the future for us to look at something like a uniform rapid suspension process on the domain level for clear or blatant acts of spoofing. Although I think the problem that we face is that a lot of the times the really bad abusive domain registrations, like for instance the gov spoofing domains, there's not really a clear custodian of that right, other than the government, obviously, in that instance. But in many instances, it's fraudulent. The emphasis is on fraud and defrauding people. So there's not really someone that is willing to step up and take the matter up on a dispute resolution process or do a rapid takedown of that name if that was available. So perhaps it is something that we should look at either enabling the registry or the ZA Domain Name Authority or law enforcement to be able to identify these very blatant, abusive, fraudulent registrations, and then have a mechanism within policy, maybe within the regulations, that allows them to request the takedown of those names very quickly. But other than that, I believe the central registry is doing some, once these names are identified, they are doing some work and investigating it. And I think if they believe there's very good grounds for fraudulent activity, I'm not 100% sure, Simla can confirm this, I think they actually withdraw the domain name or delete it or suspend it or something like that. So there is some self-policing going on, but there's no mechanism for an external party to report it and for it to be taken down immediately. I think we need to work on that still.
Yeah, correct, Dundas. I think some of these phishing activities lends itself or leads to ownership issues and IP infringement, which requires a different evidentiary burden to be satisfied. And so it makes it quite difficult as a registry to become totally involved in merit-based disputes, so to speak. Our take, our stance is always that we need to be open, transparent, and particularly independent, particularly in instances where ownership rights are an issue. And generally, these phishing attacks or phishing cases lend themselves to that kind of, to recourse to either the ADR process or to a court litigation, etc. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, Simla. I think there is a response that's coming from ISPA that is there. He shared a page there. I'm trying to get to the page, but I think it's talking about the TDNs, the takedown notice, showing that from in fact, if you can see the graph from 2006 until 2020. In 2020, it shows that it increased to more than over 700, between 750 and 800 actually. But I would have loved if one from ISPA could just give this perspective from their side. But I think this, in the absence of that, I think the information shared by Mr. Brooks could also be helpful to the team. All right. I think I see some comment. I think this is an answer that is being given to is it Lebogang or Rorisang in terms of the blockchain information. I think they're more of the same answers that are coming in. Rorisang, if you can please look at the answers there, you could be able to see that there are two comments that, in fact, Kodishang, you could see that there are two comments that answered your question in terms of blockchain. Let me bring in again Norma here. Norma, from the government side, you working on the cybersecurity side, how are you finding the law enforcement agencies helpful in terms of reporting such illegal activities within the cybersecurity space?
Thank you. We do send reports to them, but in most cases, we don't necessarily get a response because they the subs, they don't report to us, so it's a different entity. Even though we pass on information to say we've received this tender fraud scam, please assist with investigation. So we don't necessarily get feedback to say how far are they with the investigation and stuff like that. So what we do, we close the incident on our side, and they take over.
All right. No, I hear you. It would have been helpful for us maybe if we were successful in getting the representatives coming from their side in for us to know how is their success rate on dealing with this issue, especially on cybersecurity issues and as well as the domain abuse. Because look, we would want to know how effective is our system. Are we really helping people on the ground in terms of protecting them? Or it's a matter of us reporting and nothing happens after that? Or is it something, or it's something that cannot be done from their side in terms of making sure that the perpetrators are brought to books? But thanks, Norma. Colleagues, I'm looking at time and it seems like we're running short of time. Simla, if I were to get your parting comment on this, please.
I just want to respond on the block list suggestion. And concur with Neil in terms of not understanding exactly how it would work within a registry infrastructure, particularly because we are the registry operator and our channel partners are our accredited registrars who have a registrar agreement that governs the relationship between the parties. And one of the provisions is that they submit complete and accurate WHOIS information for purposes of domain name registration. So from a policy point of view, we believe that that is already catered for in terms of making sure that the data that we have is up to date, current, relevant, etc. My parting remark, and since we didn't get to data access, was to respond to Professor Snail's question, are we ready? And to state that from an external point of view, as far as end user community protection is concerned, I think the registry has been quite proactive in terms of developing its policy and process framework, including exploring an automated data access process, which we can't commit to a specific time because there's a dependency on ICANN guidelines, particularly because we believe in employing uniform standards across the namespaces that we manage. And as soon as that document is released, then we will work extensively towards making sure that data access is no longer a manual process and that there are safety measures in place, validation, two-factor authentication, etc., in order to provide the different categories of third-party requesters, your academics, your law enforcement, your entrepreneurs who might want to do data analytics, etc. But that would be in the pipeline in the future.
All right, thanks, Simla. Dundas, your final comment?
Thanks, Peter. I'll keep it short. I think there's a lot to be said under protecting critical internet infrastructure and rights protection. I think we've only spoken about instances where there's probably a clear direct victim in these instances where someone's rights have been infringed, intellectual property rights have been infringed, or whether there's some sort of criminal activity. And there's a lot that we can still do to improve that situation. I think it would be very, very helpful for law enforcement to play a closer role with some of the industry players so that we can actually get a better idea of the full loop of how these matters are dealt with from when they originate to when they're reported and ultimately resolved. I there's any prosecutions. It'd be very good to have statistics around that. But we must also keep in mind that there are other more sophisticated and complex threats to internet infrastructure that relate to the domain industry. There's issues like DNS spoofing and hijacking, direct denial of service attacks. There's a lot of threats that that the registry provider and the technical provider are constantly trying to address and trying to keep ahead of. And probably at some stage we need to again reiterate the benefits of for consumers and end users to look at something like domain lock for locking their domain names, and for implementing things like DNSSEC and those type of security protocols down the line. There's a wide variety of sophisticated and complex threats out there, and there's means of addressing them, but probably we would need a much longer session to talk about those, and we would need a broader audience perhaps to see if we can encourage them to make use of these technologies and to be aware of these threats. So that's it from my side. Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, thanks, Dundas. Much appreciated. I see the conversation is going on the chat there. If we can just continue putting comments. Norma, your final comment.
Thank you. We would like to engage with the registry at operational level so that we can understand the processes and their processes and assist in combating the domain name abuse incidents that we normally receive. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Norma. Colleagues, I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody that attended, from the attendees to the panelists. We really appreciate that. We wouldn't have done that without you. And we want us to continue with this kind of conversation because, trust me, we learn a lot from each other through these platforms. And we also want to promise you that this kind of engagements and forums will continue. I have also noted the absence of the law enforcement agency, and we will continue to reach out to them in order for us to get their perspective, because it will be fruitless exercise if we continue amongst ourselves without getting the input from the law enforcement agency. So please allow me to really from the bottom of my heart thank you and appreciate your presence from the beginning, from yesterday, those who were part of us from yesterday until today. So we have come to the end of the session, and the next session will be the elections of the new committee members. We have said from the beginning that the committee members' tenure came to an end. In fact, it came to an end earlier. We were unable to hold elections because it was during the COVID time and the beginning of the COVID time. You know how much everybody was scared in terms of that. So hence we couldn't do anything in relation to that. So colleagues, I'm not sure if we should start now or should take a break first. But considering that we still have people on the floor, I would prefer that we continue to avoid using other members, because if we take a break, some might not be able to log in again. So, colleagues, unfortunately, I'm still being tasked to moderate the process of the while I'm still on the floor, I think the platforms that we're going to use is going to be nominations. And then from nominations, we'll ask people to vote. I don't know which options are we going to use, whether it's going to be raising of hands or the technical team will be able to do the options where they will be able to vote in terms of numbers there when we call upon a name, and then we'll see how many are in favor, and then based on that, we'll take the numbers. So I think we'll need to, considering that the recent committee members were 6, if I'm not mistaken, I think it would be better if we continue on that platform to say that let's have nominations of at least eight people from the attendees. Colleagues, please let me repeat this. I want us to have a committee that is diverse, a committee that will have representatives from all areas, a committee that will have at least presentation from government, from the civil society, from business sector, from private, and if possible as well from academic side, because this is a multi-stakeholder kind of an approach. So there should be representatives that are coming from all areas. So while we continue to do that, I would prefer that we consider that to have a diverse committee group that will be taking us further. So without wasting more time, colleagues, may I please have the nominations of at least maybe let's take them to 12 people, and out of 12 people, we will vote of the highest 8. That's where we're going to have the committee, I mean the new committee members from. And I'm not sure in terms of selecting the chairperson out of the 8, then that's when we'll start vote again for the chairmanship of the 8 that have been selected. So can I have a nomination of at least 12 people? Please, colleagues, may I have see that by raise of hands or by nominating through chats? We are looking at that. Kodishang Twane, I see your hand is up. Kodishang?
Yes, I'll nominate to join the committee.
You can't nominate yourself. It is not we're not volunteering. We want people to nominate. The best that you could do is to get somebody to nominate you, sir.
Okay, but in that case, maybe we should look at getting people like Advocate Zanyu Tatisa Sari to join.
We cannot do it that way, Kodisang. We're saying people should nominate.
Yes, I am nominating someone.
Please do that officially.
Okay.
Can I get the name that you're nominating, Kodishang?
Advocate Zanyu Tatisa Sari.
Advocate Asare.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Let me look at the chat. All right, I got the other one here coming from Cedric saying he nominates Advocate Lirato Siema. The third one is from Calvin Brown. He's nominating Kodishang. And then the third one, the fourth one is Nomshado Luvisi. She's nominating Pakamile Kumalo. Secretariat, please assist me with writing of the names.
Sorry, Chair, I have my hand up.
I'll be with you, Moses. Secretariat, please assist with writing the names. Moses, your nomination?
I nominate Kodishang.
He has been nominated already. Thank you. Other colleagues, can I have other nominations, please? Colleagues, I will need 12 names, and then from the 12 names, we will vote.
Chairperson, can the people who are nominating also mention where the person?
If they accept, yes.
No, not if they accept, but which sector are they coming from? Are they from government, civil society, or because I think we will end up having maybe more names coming from civil society or government, or I think people need to indicate where this person is coming from, or which sector they are coming from.
All right. No. I understand. Okay. Thank you. And of importance, let me see the first one. Advocate Asari. What is she representing?
Private sector, cybersecurity, data protection, and POPI.
Private sector. Thank you, Kodishang. And Kodishang, what will Kodishang be representing?
Private sector, infrastructure development.
Thank you, Kodishang. Lerato Siema, what sector will that be representing? All right, I think Kodishang. Okay, that will be it will be private because it can't be government. All right, William Starkey, I see you say. Oh no. Oh, that's Paul. Paul, you're saying you're representing William Starkey. Colleagues, I want us to also take in consideration that those who are being nominated should be able to say that they're available, because we can nominate and when we come, the person will say that is not available. Okay, Mr. Masilela. Was that a wrong typing there, Mr. Masilela? Mr. Masilela saying he's representing Mr. Peter Madabu. I think I will have to let somebody continue as time goes on in terms of managing the processes. Colleagues, can I also have Paul? I see there's Mr. Wesi who is nominating you. Are you available? I'll go back to the other ones that are being mentioned there. Paul, let me start with you. Paul, are you available to serve? Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Advocate Asari, are you available? Advocate Asari, are you available?
She's logging back on. She has connectivity issues.
All right, she can just type. I will be able to see that. I see there's Andile is nominating Tato Fikwe. So there are two that I did not ask them if they're available, but I think I touched on Lerato, I touched on you, Kodishang, Pakamile Kumalo. Pakamile, are you available? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Pakamile. Secretariat, please, can you please help get the numbers? I think there's too many nominations. Rumadi, we have accepted the one that's coming from Mr. Lucky Maslela. Secretariat, could you please count for me how many names did we get? We said at least minimum of 12. How many do we have? If we can assist, please. Noted, Mr. Libano. Secretariat, how many names do we have? Let me just quickly count them. I have Advocate Asare 1. I've got Lerato Siema 2. I have Kodishang 3. I have Pakamile Kumalo 4. I have Tato Fikwe 5. I have Paul Yule 6. I have Tato 7. Colleagues, please, can we get the other names? I have Tinyiko 8. Can we have other names again, colleagues?
Sorry, Peter, I just jumped back onto the call. This is Advocate Asare.
Yes, Advocate, you're nominated, and we're going to vote later. But I wanted to confirm if you accept before we even go to voting.
Yes, sir. Accept nomination.
Thank you, Advocate. Much appreciated. We got 8 names, colleagues. Can we have extra 4? Paul, I've noted that you have noted William Starkey. Let me write him. Number 9, it will be William Starkey. All right, colleagues, can we please have extra 3 names? Ke lebogile Malopiana. That would be number 10. Number 11. Colleagues, can we have extra 2 names, please? Can I have the surname of Nomshado? Nomshado, and number 12 will be Professor Kiru. Prof. Kiru Pillay. All right, colleagues. We have 12 names that have been nominated, and I want to believe that they are coming from different sectors. I know Professor Kiru comes from government. Nomshado, I'm think that will be
Civil society, Peter.
or private.
Civil society.
Is that civil society? Civil
Yes.
society, Kilibokile will be part of civil society. Am I correct? William Starkey, it will be from, is it private, or I think that's private. And then we have Tinyiko. Tinyiko, is that from business side? And there is oh, I think, okay, we have I think we have added the last name. I see. I'm not sure if I should continue. I said 12 names, but not necessarily that it was something to be heard of. We can add Waratang Mia as well. I see her name there, and then we'll vote. Waratang Mia. Colleagues, I think I'll have to excuse myself from continuing, and I'll want. I'm not sure who can I nominate from the group to continue. All right, I'm not going to add again, colleagues. This number 4 is the last. Number 14 is the last one. I see there is Ant Brooks' name. Ant, I know you're part of this. Are you available, Ant?
Yes, I can be available.
Thank you so much. 14 names, Ant Brooks. All right, colleagues, allow me to nominate somebody to help in terms of handling the elections. But what will happen is people will be given names, a name will be called, and people will be asked to vote. And based on the numbers, then people will be able to write how many votes did that person get. So I will choose one person from the attendees. Preferable will be coming from the panelist. Let me see, Paul. I cannot choose you because you're also one of the nominees. I wanted to choose you. Mr. Sandy Leshabangu, are you available? Can I trust you with running the elections? You are our IEC today. Can you hear us, Mr. Shabangu? Yes, please put your mic on. And you have heard the names. Let me read them for you again. Or the secretariat will help you to read the names, actually. Tumelo, are you available to send to give the names to Mr. Shabangu? Tumelo, are you there? Tumelo, can you hear me? Okay, colleagues, I think.
Excuse me, Chair.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Can you please conclude whether all those who are nominated have accepted nomination?
I've checked with them. They've accepted.
No, they need to accept publicly, Chair.
I have confirmed with them, and there were comments that were coming from the charts that they were confirming their availability. If you may also check on the charts, Moses, I was calling names and I was getting the comments from them, except the one for Varatang and Nomshado, but it's because we've already reached 12, and then I said if it doesn't, then we'll still be able to cover what is needed. So, Sandile, can you take over? Can you hear us now? Thanks, Nomshado. Sandile? All right, I think we'll have difficulties in hearing Sandile. William also confirmed, and Nomshado would say that they've accepted. I think, let me see who among the panelists that will. Colleagues, can I get somebody to volunteer?
Chair, can I volunteer to just run the election?
Thank you so much, Mr. Skosana. Thank you so much. Please, you may proceed.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. I think we've managed to all get our names in. We've all made our nominations. I think the most equitable and fair way to actually run this would be, as a name is called out, we will then make a vote in chat. Please be aware that the chat space now is going to be used for voting purposes. We're then going to tally the number of votes that each participant receives. Please do not feel obliged to vote according to company lines. Vote according to principle of having somebody there. I know that there are some people who are coming from the same disciplines. We do have a number of advocates that are represented in the nominations. So it might be wise, you can vote multiple times, but just be aware that you are voting for somebody who's going to be a representative for a particular field. And I think we will then begin with the first name that is there. I'm hoping that we'll be able to, okay, firstly, let me begin with Advocate Asare, because that is who is top of mind and top of my list. I would like, if we could, then just have, that we have people now voting for Advocate Asare. Advocate Asare, your own vote will not count. Could we just have, by a yes to Advocate Asare being confirmed just in the chat, so that we can then confirm and tally up as to who is exactly voting for Advocate Asare. So that is the vote that will be going on now. While that vote is happening, I'm going to hopefully get a list for everybody who's going to be everybody else who's going to be in there. Cedric and Angel, if you could please just keep a tally as to who has been voted for. So we're going to keep it open just for 20 more seconds so that everybody would be able to then vote for that particular person. Yep.
Can we maybe try and use polls?
Yes, if we can use the poll, if you can open up the poll, that would be excellent. It's just that I don't have the option of polling. So if you do have the option of polling, please then just open up the poll with different people's names as they come up. Cedric, do we have the poll up and running? Cedric Olerato, if we do have the poll up and running, can then the poll be used for voting processes, please? Just to confirm, we are in the process of voting. There are votes that have already been cast. We're just trying to So hopefully that will then be actioned. So if we are aware, Cedric, Angel, and Lerato, if you can then just confirm if the poll has been opened up. Okay, it seems like the poll is taking a little bit of time for us to actually get done. If I could ask that it is then just done by a show of hands, because at the moment the polling is giving us a little bit of a problem in terms of setting up. All right, just one last wait moment. If we could then just confirm if we're going to go with the polling method or if we're going to go with the raised hand method. It seems like there is a general movement towards waiting for the poll to be enabled. As we're waiting for the poll, I would just like to confirm. It seems as though, as I said, everybody has confirmed the acceptance of the nomination. I would just like to quickly go through all of those who have been nominated and have confirmed. We have Mr. Tatum Figwe, who has been nominated, and if I understand correctly, Mr. Figwe, you have confirmed. Is that correct? And then we also have Advocate Asare, who has been...
I confirm, Mandile.
Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. And then we have Advocate Asare, who's also been nominated and confirmed her nomination. And then we also have Advocate Lerato Siema, who has been nominated and has confirmed.
Andile.
Yep.
Andile, sorry to, could you maybe give us maybe 10 minutes so that we can add the names into the poll?
No problem. I think then let's do this. In this 10-minute break, could you also then just list down all of the people who would then be done in that poll, so that we have a clear understanding as to who the full list of names are. But I think that 10 minutes will be fine. If I could ask that we just take a break in the meantime, so that we are then able to then correctly ensure that the voting procedure happens swiftly. And also could I ask that in this break, everybody please make it back in 10 minutes. That will be at 20 to 5. That way we can then ensure that at 20 to 5, we can then begin the voting process. So if I would ask you to please indulge us just for a few minutes, so that we can get the voting process correctly done. And then in addition to that, in chat, we will then have all of the people that are up for nomination, who have confirmed, so that you are aware as to which field they represent going into that nomination. Because I don't think it will be too wise to have too many of one field represented. So it is going to show in terms of the field that they come from, so that we have that. So I think at 20 to 5, we can then all return we're just going to take a short adjournment for that voting process to then happen. Chair, can I hand it back to you?
Oh, wow, I was not listening. I was busy with something.
No problem. So we're just taking a quick adjournment and we will return at 22:05 just to give the polling and voting process the time so that we are able to then proceed going forward.
All right, so we have 7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Skosana. You will proceed from when we come back. Thank you.
Certainly I will. Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. I think we are back up and running. I just want to double check that the polling has been corrected. If you can, then just confirm for me, City, if the polling is up and running, or do we need a few more minutes?
We are just almost there, Andy, right?
Okay, no problem, no problem. That's fine. Then in that case, you'll just send a message to then confirm that it is ready. In the meantime, let us just take a little bit of a short sabbatical once again, and I will then ask everyone to come back once the polling has been activated.
Andile. Andile, we have two polls. We're going to start with a short one, and then after that, we're going to go to the next one. Andile, the poll is on.
Hello, hello, Andile. Hi, everyone. I've just been seeing a poll right now, but it seems like the panelists are not able to vote. I'm not sure if that can be fixed. Yeah, please give direction, Andile. Thank you.
I see there's a comment to say that the host and the panelists can't vote.
Cedric is sorting out that to allow the panelists to vote. So can we indulge him just for a few minutes? Thank you.
Now we have enabled the option to get the panelists to vote. So that's not the final one. So now they can submit their votes.
Okay, thank you very much, Cedric. I'm looking at this list on the poll. It is 6 members long. I just want to confirm this before we begin the voting process. At the moment, we have William Stuckey, Mr. Peter Madavu, Mr. Paul Hugh, Ms. Baratang Mia. We've also got Ant Brooks, Mr. Ant Brooks, and we've also got Ms. Nomshat Dubisi. Can I then just confirm that this is the first poll that we're running?
Sorry, could you please repeat that? I'm not quite sure if my name should be on that list.
To my understanding, your name should be on one of the polling lists. I just want to confirm that there might be a secondary one that is yet to come. I think there is a limitation in terms of the number of people that can be placed on a poll. So Cedric, if you can then just confirm for me, I see Mr. Wesi, your hand is raised, sir. I give you the floor.
Thank you, Chair. There are 2 lists. This one is the shorter one, and then there's a second one with 10 names.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wesi. I see that. All right. So is the second list still coming? Because It's not too clear. It looks like this is still the first list. Am I correct, Mr. Wesley, in understanding that?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, brilliant. All right, so this is the first list, and this is the list that we will be voting from. And there is a secondary list yet to come. So before we begin the voting process, I would just like to confirm that all the attendees and everybody who had just stepped away comes back. So if we can then just have everybody just step back to their machines, ready to vote. Either you're voting on your mobile phone. If everybody could just be given an opportunity, I will read this list first, just so that we are aware of the nominations that are here. There is a secondary list that is still to come, okay? If I could then just have everybody either just by yes, nominating, just stating that they're back at their machines and they're ready to vote. The voting process will begin in the next 30 seconds. So I would just like for everybody who had stepped away to return back to their machines ready to vote, because we are now underway with the first list. And I will then also take this time to read out the list. So on the list, we have William Stuckey, Peter Madabu, Peter Huel, Baratang Mia, and Brooks, and we also have the final name being Nomshato Lubisi. So that is who we're voting for on this first list. We've got quite a nice representation of industries already on this list. So I'm almost certain that we will have an even greater spread in the upcoming one. All right, so hopefully everybody is back at the machines and ready to begin the voting process. And we're going to then begin the vote. Yes, go ahead.
I think there's been a mistake. Paramili Kumalo from Civil Society. My name was, I was nominated and I accepted the nomination. And I think Nomshad has been nominated twice. Maybe it's a mistake because we come from the same organization. I'm not too sure.
Yes, this is the other thing that I was worried about, Pagamilo. There is going to be a situation where people from the same organization are nominated, or people from the same field are going to be nominated as well. There is going to be a separate process where we're going to be tallying up the votes and essentially looking at the representation. So we are going to have 6 people sitting from a particular, from different disciplines, and
but
essentially the
not
one with the
mentioned in
highest
either
vote.
of the lists.
If I'm not mistaken, you should be in the second list. I just need to confirm with Cedric, but to my knowledge, your name was mentioned. I know I mentioned your name as well in the nomination. So you should be on the second list. It is now going to be a matter of seeing who do we vote for from the same industry.
Please read out the
Yeah.
list. I will have to pull it out.
Yeah, please read out the full names, Cedric and Lerato, just so that we know exactly who's been nominated, so that everybody who has been nominated can then just confirm their name has been placed there.
Okay, Andile. The second list, we have Tinyiko Sibane, we have Kodishang Swane, we have Advocate Asare, we have Pakamile Kumalo, we have Kilebohile Mulupiane, we have Professor Kiru, we have Kilebohile Mulutan, and we have Tatom Fikwe, we have Moses Hoboi, and Advocate CM.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sorry, Chair, can I maybe just come in?
Yes, Moses, if you can.
Hello, Chair, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Moses, go ahead.
Hello, Chair.
Yes, Moses, go ahead, we can hear you.
Okay. Dr. Pillay is not in this call, and he has not made any mention whether he does accept a nomination. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that one, Moses. Yes, we actually cannot have Dr. Pillay as he has not put his name forward and accepted the nomination. And if I could ask that in the second list that is made aware, we can't force people to sit on a committee when they have not put their hand forward or accepted. So if I could ask in that second list, we're just aware of that. To the best of my knowledge, however, everybody else has confirmed. So I would like to begin the voting process very shortly. I just want to double check that there are no further objections going into this voting process. So if there are any objections or omissions, please do make yourself known in the time being before we begin the voting process. Okay, I see no raised hands. I see no reason for us to then halt the voting process. So I would like us to begin and take the people on this first list. So that is William Stuckey, Peter Madavu, Paul Huel, Baratang Mia, and Brooks, and Nomshat Lubisi. If we could then just quite quickly begin with the voting process. So I see a question there. We are voting for the first list for the first time. This is the first time that we're voting for it. The new list is going to be placed up very shortly. So we are voting for the first list for the first time. And then thereafter, we're going to get the second list, wherein it is 10 members, well, 9 members long. And in that 9-member list, we will then be able to then vote for those people that are on that list. Once again, I do remind everyone that there is nominations of people from the same field or same background. Please just be aware of that. We are going to be taking the highest number of votes for people in a particular field, all right? So that is what we're going to be doing. Mr. Madabu, you could not vote in that one simply because your name was on that list, I think. So that's possibly why, but I'll just double check.
Oh, wow. Okay, I was trying to vote to somebody else, not myself, but doesn't allow me. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
If it allows other people.
I think that's possibly why.
It's okay, no problem.
All right, I think that particular list should be done. Everybody should have made their concerted, applied their minds to that list. We should be getting ready with the second list incoming, on which we should be seeing a nomination list 9 members long. And from the nomination list, we will then be able to then make our votes. I'm too sure, William, as to how many people have submitted a vote. It is going to be up to, yeah, it's going to be up to Lerato and Cedric and Angel to then just confirm. I think we should see when the new list is up. I think they are also waiting to see that everybody has managed to make their vote on that list as well. Cedric, if you could, Cedric or Lerato, if you could just confirm that that is the case, that we are just waiting for everybody to have voted on that previous list.
Hi, Andy.
Yes, Lerato, go ahead.
Yes, so there's 24 people on the platform, 20 voted. Yeah, we are sitting at 83%. I think myself and Cedric won't be able to vote because we are hosts.
That sounds correct. Can I just confirm, however, Mr. Madabu was not able to vote. I'm not too sure if that is something that should have happened, because if that is the case, we should be sitting on fewer numbers. If there's 24 attendees and yourself and Lerato are unable to vote, if by the assumption that Mr. Madabu was not able to vote, that therefore means that people like Cedric, people like William and Nomshato would not have been able to vote as well. Is that correct?
I think that could be the reason, Andile, but I want them to confirm as well if they tried and what they experienced. Thank you.
Hi, Andile, it's Angel here.
Yes, go ahead, Angel.
I'm looking at the screen now. We have 20 of 24 votes. So meaning 20 people voted and 4 did not.
Okay, I'm then going to just take a moment to then just confirm that perhaps that the 4 that are yet to vote are either experiencing technical difficulties. If you could direct message them just to confirm the status of their votes as well, just so that we could then identify exactly what the reason could be. Okay, I see that there are some responses coming in on chat. There are some people who were able to vote, some people who were not able to vote as well. If you could then just double check. I would also like us to move on to the next list, because if my math is correct, and sometimes is a little bit off, but if my math is correct, that should mean that of the 4 that were waiting, it is Mr. Ntsako Manganyi, Peter Madabo, yourself, Angel, and Lerato, who were unable to vote. Lerato, I can see your raised hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, Andile, I would like to comment on the issue that was raised earlier. Although Professor Kile is not on the platform now, he did indicate that he accepts a nomination. Thank you.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much, Lerato, for that one. At least now there is a little bit of clarity in terms of that situation. All right. So I would like us to now then, if it is ready, we perhaps have the second list, just so that we are able to then confirm and make sure that the names that are on there are people who have accepted their nomination to the committee as well. So as soon as that list is up for the poll, if we could then have that list, then we could then go on to it, that one. So if you could just confirm that one for us, Cedric and Angel.
Andile.
Thank you so much for that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, the one on your screen is the second list now.
Absolutely brilliant. If you could just change, that from being Advocate Siema to being nomination poll at the very top. It is a little bit subliminal. So if you can then just change that from being Advocate Siema in green in the title of the poll to be nomination list, just that one quickly, please.
Sorry, Chair.
Go ahead, Moses. I see your raised hand.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I see that Dr. Kiru's name is still on the list.
Yes, Moses. It seems that as though he did confirm his nomination or confirm his acceptance of the nomination.
Was it done publicly, Chair?
To the best of my knowledge, it was done privately, which is a little bit, yeah, it does raise questions. However, he has previously stated that he would then stand.
No, Chair.
I'm not too sure.
Nominations are done publicly, and he needs to also accept publicly, Chair.
Chair, if I may, please, we don't want to be seen having issues with other people that are being nominated. So, Rumari, if you can please mute your mic, I'm on the floor.
So just tell them.
Angel, can you please mute your mic? Colleagues, I was still saying, let us not be seen as having other intentions, especially when people are nominated publicly and there's a confirmation that the person accepted. You remember that when we started here, we did not give the guidelines on how should people accept. We just did that openly. The only thing that we did was to verify with those people if they're interested. So we don't want to impose other processes that we never implemented from the beginning. Chairperson, if you may continue with the process, because when we started, there were no restrictions in terms of how one should be voted or one should be nominated. We only said, let's have the names and let's have people confirming, and that has been done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Madabu. Just one more raised hand. Mr. Mfikwe, I see your raised hand. If you can then just take the floor.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, it seems like the list, there is a problem there because I only voted 3 times and it disappeared. So I'm not sure how we should proceed, but as you can see, it's coming back again. Hopefully this time around, it will allow one to vote for any candidate until the last candidate. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mfikwe. There was a problem, and it seems like the same problem is happening again. If you could then just be aware that it is not subliminal messaging for Advocate Siema, it is just a typo. But this is the list of nominees for the second allotment. So that is the list as it stands. So at the top of the list, we have Advocate Siema. Next, we have Moses Hoboi. Next is Tatum Fikwe. Next is Kilebukhile Moletsane. And then we have Kilebukhile Molopiane. And then we've got Pagamile Kumalo. And then we've got Advocate Asare. After we've got Godishang Twane. And we've got Dinyiko Simbini. And then at the bottom of the list, Dr. Kiru Pile. So I think this is the list. Once again, I do just say that the Advocate CM at the very top is just a typo. It is not as subliminally messaging or influencing a vote in any way. So this is the different
Okay.
second list.
If I may, I'm also unable to vote on this second poll, even when my name is not part of it.
Okay, I think that there is definitely a serious problem over there, Mr. Madabu. It could be, I just want to ensure that this is not the case. Okay, I'm able to vote and you're not listed as a host. Cedric, if I could ask you to please just look into what could be stopping Mr. Madabu from voting. It is quite important that he's able to then cast his vote. It is a democratic process. Okay, can I ask that we do the following? There seems to be another typo. There is Kilebukhile Moletsane and Kilebukhile Molopiane. If we could then just have clarity around that one, then this list should be only 9 names long.
Hi, Andy, that's Angel.
Yes, Angel, go ahead.
I'm asking whether we have put Miss Moletsani mistakenly, as opposed to us putting in Miss Molopsiani, just so that we can be able to count the votes.
There is, do we have a Kilebukhile Moletsane there that was nominated? I'm going through all the nominations once again, just to be certain. It doesn't seem as though there was a Kilebukhile Moletsane. I just want to make sure of that. Okay, so there is no Kilebukhile Moletsane. The nomination came from Herman Matabane, who then said that he meant Kilebukhile Molopiane. So there should not be a Kilebukhile Moletsane. And once again, if there is a Kilebukhile Moletsane in the room, if you could just raise your hand. But to the best of my knowledge, there is no Kilebukhile Moletsane. I'm also looking through the list of attendees and panelists. We do have Ekile Molopiane from yesterday. So if we could then just correct that. So once again, this list will be taken down just so that we then correct that error over there. And if I could ask Angel, please also correct the name at the top of this list. It needs to be a nomination list, and then Advocate Siema can be the first name on the list. So please just correct that one for us.
Hi, Andile.
Angel?
If we stop the poll to correct that error at the top, it would mean we'll have to end the poll and create a new one for members to vote again. Are you suggesting that we do that?
Has voting already started on this list?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then in that case, we can then just continue with this list. We will have to then ignore the votes that go in for Ekile Moletsane though. All right, so I'm assuming that there are no further objections. If there are any objections, please do take the time to then just voice them out at the moment with regards to this list. All right, it seems there are no further objections to this list, so I would welcome everyone to please continue to vote. We shall keep the voting open just for a little bit longer. Angel, I would also like if Angel or Lerato, whichever one of you is able to, if you could then just update us as to how far we are in terms of this vote. I would hate for it to take too much longer, but I would also like for everyone to apply their mind. So if you could just tell us how far we are in terms of this particular list.
Hi, Andy. We are on 20 of 23, so meaning 20 people of 23 have voted.
Thank you so much for that. Can I then just confirm, I suspect that the 23, the 3 is made up of Mr. Madabu, yourself as Zadna, and also from Lerato, who is also a co-host. If you could then just confirm, that sounds like that should be the 3 that are unable to vote in this one.
Chair, thank you. I was able to vote on this poll.
Okay, brilliant. So there is one other person who is unable to vote. If I could ask if they are encountering any difficulties, please do let us know in chat if you're encountering any difficulties. There should be 22 votes that should be able to be counted at the very least.
21, Chair.
21, Chair.
Yeah, so we have 21 now, 21 of 23. So Cedric and myself cannot vote. So we have the concrete number now.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so very much. All right, so that should be that particular list done, and I saw that you were able to share the previous results. Once you are able to share these ones, if you could, please just confirm those ones. We would also need to then be taking tally as to who was voted and from which field they represent, because there is a nomination of people from the same field. So basically people from civil society, there's a number of nominations for people from civil society, people from technical. There are also nominations for people from government as well. So we're going to have to look at that one quite carefully. But I'm thankful for everyone for casting their vote and applying their mind to the people who will then be leading this committee going forward. Hi, William. All right. So let me perhaps, while we are waiting for the poll to be shared, the multi-stakeholder process, as it was shared previously, there are a number of fields that are being considered. So broadly, it is civil society and government, and then technical committee or technical community representation. And then there is business community representation as well. I think there should be a total of 6. So it is civil society, government, technical committee, academia, and also from business and just to be certain as to who the different fields or backgrounds are. I just want to be certain as to what it is. And Mr. Madabu, I would like you, if you could just remember exactly who the different spheres are. I remember you shared it before we went into the voting process. That is correct, Mr. Saki. So it is, those are the fields. So business is big business, and then private is also inclusive of SMMEs, but private individuals as well. So that would be your user perspective. So those are broadly the fields that we are then tracking in this one. And I know it does sound a little bit anachronistic, but you do have, if I'm not mistaken, civil society, and that does also encompass the legal background. And then in terms of who belongs to which field, it will be from the perspective of the organizations that they will be representing as they sit on the committee. So for myself, while I sat on the committee, I was a technical representative. There were people from civil society, that was media monitoring. If I'm not mistaken, it was media monitoring. We also had people from government, so that was a number of people as well. And yes, there are people who wear multiple hats. However, it is taken based off of the field that you will be coming from as you sit on the committee. So if you're representing an organization that while you're sitting on the committee, that would be the one that will be considered. We did have academia in the previous committee. However, there were a number of changes. So that is exactly how we only landed up with only exactly 6. There were other members as well who were previously representative of all of the different fields. So that is why we are looking broadly at having those people also representative of communities that they come from, so that they would then be able to influence. Once again, an issue of overrepresentation does render a committee to not be as all-inclusive as it should be. But there we go. I see the results are in, and I'm very grateful for everybody for applying their minds and voting. It is absolutely brilliant that everybody was able to do exactly this. So from now, I then hand back over to, I'm not too sure, should I hand back to you, Mr. Madabo, as you are then going to lead us into the next item?
Chair, I thought I'm done. Everything should be run by you. But unless if there's something specific that you want me to touch on. Chair, my understanding is that voting, the polls have been done and people were able to record the percentage. So the outcome should be simple. People have spoken.
Yes. Yes, the people have spoken. I just want, if we could have just a final tally as to who sits where, because we did have 2 lists. So we just need to know as to who amongst that list overall, where the highest votes lie. I'm hoping that we can then get that update either from Angel or Lerato, just so that we know exactly who fell where. So that we can then proceed forward and then have the entire list of everybody who's been nominated and voted for.
Yeah, I think that should be the process, Chair. The people who are in position of the full result should tell us who get the highest number in that order. Tell us who got the most yes, and then we should be able to proceed from there. But they must tell us, because they have the full list. We can't see the full. We are only seeing the result of the
list that we're on at the moment.
Of the second list. So the people who are sitting with both lists, they must tell us who get the highest, and then we go down until we get our 8 top members.
Thank you very much. Lerato, Angel, and Cedric, if you could then just provide us with that as to who fell where. It's been an hour since we've been voting. I would like for us to then have just conclusion and clarity in terms of where that is going. So if you could just give us an update as to the full lists, who fell where.
Andy, we are busy adding them together, then we're going to give you the result just now.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so very much for that one. All right. In fact, while that is the case, perhaps let me be just a little bit indulgent, and I hope that you'll be able to indulge me just a little bit. As part of my outgoing activities, there will be a handover that the current committee will be doing to the incoming committee. But I would like to just impart to those who are standing that IG or internet governance is not an event. The committee is tasked with the activities of running the IGF. However, internet governance is not just an event. And I would hasten to remind everyone here that while we had 2 days of engaging discussion, the discussion does not end here. And it should not end here. We need to be going back into the communities that we would be representing as we come to the forum. We need to be putting back into all of the different spheres that we are coming from to further enhance and engage with IG as a concept, IG as an ongoing and dynamic thing, so that we are able to have a more knowledgeable, more interactive community, especially around the issues of the internet. There were quite a few discussions and discussion points that were raised in today's meeting that I would like us to just be mindful of, that even though Popia is coming in and the information regulator is doing their damnedest to make sure that we are ready, because they are, we need to also be taking stock of how far we've come and ensure that those around us are aware of some of these changes, are aware of the impact of some of these changes and legislation. And we need to be able to plow back into the communities that we're going to be representing, not just as committee members. I think that that is one of the things that we tried as the outgoing committee, to make sure that IG is not just an event. It is more than just organizing the Internet Governance Forum. It is more so an activity that is ongoing, that we're engaging people within the communities. I know that Mr. Mfikwe and Mr. Hoboi and Mr. Madabu and Mr. Manganye, as well as myself, and we have one additional member, Ms. Komeshni, Patrick. We have been constantly trying to ensure that IG or internet governance as a whole is not just something that happens over a 2 or 3 day conference. It is something that people are aware of. It is a living, breathing thing. And I would like for the incoming committee to remember that. More importantly as well, though, most of the discussions that we have within the South African context do get sent up into ICANN, and they do get had, these kind of discussions are had globally. And it is very important that we are aware that we are part of a global community, and this global community requires for us to do what little we can to ensure that there is no safe space for ignorance to thrive. And that is essentially the one thing that I would like us to be aware of. I see that the votes are coming in, the tally is coming in, so we should be able to know exactly who sits where. And we're then going to go quickly and then just go for who did what, and who would be sitting in the new committee. In addition to that, I would like, if we could, perhaps from this sitting committee that will be decided upon today. I know it might just take us a little bit longer. However, I would like for if the chair position, as was discussed by Mr. Madabu earlier on, would then be decided. However, it does not need to happen today, but it would be nice if we could have that particular situation clarified before we go any further, just so that it is publicly known as well as to who the chair and co-chair would be for the incoming committee, if we are able to get that vote done. So, wow, the numbers are really, are we sure about these numbers? Okay, 20 versus 21 votes, all right. From the looks of it, this committee might just be very much female empowered. I'm really excited about that part. Hopefully going forward, this will be the nature of things in most things. Mr. Manganyi, if you can, I see the.
Yes, Chair. I want to ask: is the list complete? Because I see some other names which we voted for are not on this list. So I'm asking for the people who are compiling the list if the names are complete, because I see some other names are not here on this list. Yes, I think that's the name that I was asking.
Yeah,
Nomshato.
Nomshato is also not here, and I know I voted.
Because her name was on the first voting
Was on
poll,
the first list.
and then the first voting poll's result was her result was there. So I don't understand why her name is not on this list.
In total, we should have 60 names. Angel, if I could ask that you would then just confirm. Angel and Cedric, if you could just confirm, we're just waiting for that final name for Nomshat Tulubisi. I'm just doing a tick in terms of the number of names that we have over here, but we do not have Nomshato on this list at the moment. Okay, there we go.
So it was quite something. The person who got the highest yes.
The highest number, yeah.
The highest number is not in the list. Okay, but it's fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manganyi. That is noted. Let us just confirm. At the moment, I have Nomshato with 16. I then have Advocate Asare with 15. I then have Mebaratang on 14. And then I've got Dr. Kiru on 13. Advocate Siema on 12. Tato Mfikwe on 12. Let me just go up this list to make certain. I've got William Stuckey on 12. I've then got on 10, Mr. Madabu. On 10, I've got Korishang. I've got Miss Molopiane, sorry, on 11 as well. So we also have Moses on 9. I then have Paul on 8 and William Stuckey on 8 as well. And then I've also got Ant Brooks on 8. I hope that that is pretty clear. Let us just confirm, Korishang, go ahead, I see your raised hand.
Okay, I was about to say, I was looking at the recording that I made in case they didn't have those results, but since they managed to retrieve them, it's fine.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for that one. Yes, Mr. Mangangi, I see your raised hand.
Okay, I'm thinking that going forward, can we have the top 8, the top 8 names, or on the list, and then we can, and then if there's a tie, then we can start deciding from that. But I think it would best to cut that list into that top 8 that we need, that 8 names, and then we decide from that 8 names. Hence it was mentioned here that many people were different heads, and I believe that, you know, people in this space, they do different things. Some they're in private and
yes,
legally and IT, but I feel like we can just shorten that list to 8 people, or if it's 10, if there's 10, and then the last 3 people are ties, then we will take it from there. But I believe that we need to get this process done by shortening the names to 8 people.
Okay, perhaps let me do this because I see that we do. Let me just read out the numbers again so that we can then be certain of it. All right, there we go. All right, thank you so much. Is that you, Cedric? Brilliant. All right, so what we have in the top 8, 9 positions, we've got Nomsha Tulubisi on 16 yes, 4 no. Advocate Asada on 15 yes, 6 no. Barat Mia on 14 yes, 6 no. Dr. Kiru on 13 yes, 8 no. Advocate Siema on 12 yes, 9 no. Tatum Fikwe on 12 yes, 9 no. Dinyuku Simbini on 12 yes, 9 no. Gilebukhile Molopiani on 11 yes, and 10 no. And then honorable mentions, we've got outside the top 10, Peter Madabu on 10 yes, 10 no. Korishang Twani on 10 yes, 11 no. Paul Hugh on 9 yes, 11 no. Moses Soboy on 9 yes, 12 no. Pagamilu Kumalo on 9 yes, 12 no. William Stuckey on 8 yes, 12 no. And Ant Brooks on 8 yes, 12 no. All right, so I think there we have our top 8 or 9 positions that have been nominated. It does seem pretty representative, even though we've got 2 advocates, but they do wear multiple hats, as was said before. And it does seem as though we've got representatives from government, from Dr. Kiru Pile. We've got Tatu Fikwe from civil society, Dinyuku Simbini from technical, Nomsha Tulubisi from civil society as well, Kilebukhile Molopiane from business. So it does seem a pretty representative field. Mr. Mangangi, if I can then just ask, this is our top 9 at the moment. Could I ask that if we have from this top 9, just one final poll to then show who would then be leading this. Hopefully that is something that we will be able to do in this, if it doesn't take too much time. If it does, then it might just need to be left to the committee for them to vote internally. I see that it is almost 6 o'clock. All right, I think it might just take a little bit too much time. However, that is our 9-member committee at the moment. And it could be shortened to 8. However, 9 does not seem as though it is, it is the top 8, my mistake. All right, so our top 8 is then made up of Nomshato Lubisi, Advocate Asare, Baratang Mia, Dr. Kiru Pile, Advocate Siema, Tatum Fikwe, Dinyiko Simbini. That is our sitting incumbent, our new multi-stakeholder committee, representative of people from multiple fields. So I thank you for everyone for applying their minds. I think it is now just about the time for us to perform our final functions as the current sitting committee. And Mr. Madabu, I would like to welcome you and invite you to the floor once again, as well as yourself, Mr. Manganyi. If you could then just give us a final for the IGF, seeing as how those particular people will be contacted. But thank you very much, everyone, for applying your minds and voting in the most fair way as we possibly could. And most importantly, once again, I remind you to please be mindful. Those of you who have been elected into this incoming committee, IG, Internet Governance, is not just an event. I have faith and trust that the incoming committee will be able to ensure that this is not just a talk shop that we have once a year, that it is something that we will be able to action and feel in our daily lives. And I thank you for the time that we have served in the previous committee. For myself, this is one of those drop mic moments, and I trust that everybody will be able to go forward into their different sectors and positively influence and have engaging discussions that are going to result in real and tangible change for the betterment of our greater society. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Chair. Date Andile.
Yes, Lerato, I can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's actually Mulehe the site, Sam. It would seem.
Apologies about that, Mr. Wesi.
No.
I actually think that this is your moment to close, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Wesi.
I think that Tim Fikwe has his hand up. I'm not sure if it's an old hand, sir. But I'll close once he's done.
Okay, thanks very much, Dademus, and thanks, Andile, for coordinating this process. What I just wanted to make sure and also pass some information to some of the candidates that couldn't necessarily make it to the top 8, that the committee itself, it's rightfully supposed to have a steering committee, which presents another opportunity for those who would like to still participate in the South African Internet Governance Forum activities in the form of steering committee. So I'm hoping that the incoming committee will actually share sufficient information well in time to make sure that those who really wanted to participate in the activities, they can also get a chance to do that. That's all. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fikwe. That is also very correct. And it is also one that we would like everybody who is part of this. In part of the messaging, when I say make it an actionable or tangible thing that is living, that is where the steering committee then comes in. There are other structures as well, and government is trying to ensure that this particular committee is completely independent, and it is required that it is completely independent, and it is a committee of peers that steer this entire process forward, and as such, please do keep an eye out for all of those different opportunities that are then presented as and when they come, for everybody who did not make it onto this current sitting committee. But Mr. Wesi, I would like to thank you and welcome you once again to the floor so that you can then wrap up your shindig. So if I may, Mr. Wesi, I would like to invite you onto the floor once again.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, looking that it has been quite a long day for most of the people who are online, and we have dwindling numbers now in terms of attendance. I'll just be very brief. Once again, thank you very much to the participants, the panelists, and most importantly, of course, to the Honorable Deputy Minister, whom, of course, we are thanking in absentia today. And most importantly, welcome to the new committee. One is actually excited and looking forward to working together with yourselves. However, it would bring me great joy if the outgoing committee would reconvene the incoming committee just to have, a post parade of sorts, just to share ideas and all of those things, just to ensure continuity, understanding that some members from the previous committee are still on the new one. But with that said, Chair, I think, the 2 days one has learned. It would be a lie if I say I haven't learned. A lot of things have been discussed, a lot of points have been put forth. And I think it's quite important that from a ZETNA perspective, and also as a participant within the internet governance space, to take note of these comments that were made, because they shape our views, our programs, and our policy positions. That shows the importance of internet governance within what we do, especially as ZETNA, and of course, as from the department perspective. And also, one has to know that through the deliberation, a number of opportunities were highlighted. And of course, that needs to be exploited as much as a number of issues have been highlighted. And of course, in the same breath, one has to note that as much as we can highlight the bad things, there are some pockets of excellence that we need to celebrate as a country in terms of internet governance and all other facets of ICT. But I think my takeaway from the sessions, colleagues, would be that cross-collaboration is key and is needed, and more of it still has to come. Transformation is a multifaceted issue with which needs attention and clear intent. We cannot transform. And I always say we need not reduce it to only color. We need to broaden the scope, talk about policy reform, talk about gender equality and involvement of those that are disenfranchised. We also spoke about awareness and digital skilling being a fundamental need. And of course, we also spoke about access to connectivity, and this connectivity must be a stable and secure connectivity. And this can only be provided by reliable infrastructure. So this is just to summarize it very high level. I'm not even noting issues of cybersecurity, issues of security, issues of child protection, and so forth. However, these are the things that I could pick up. And of course, one is actually looking forward to the report that will come from these deliberations. And in due course, that will be shared with everyone and of course with the citizenry of the country to say, this is what we have yielded. And colleagues who are online, in closing, once again, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And I'm hopeful the next time we meet each other will be at the South African School of Internet Governance. Thank you and have a lovely and safe evening. Cheers. And don't forget, I think you can close, or are we disconnecting?
Oh, okay. Thanks everyone, and thanks to our panelists. Thanks to Mwesi and everyone that participated yesterday. And we are really looking forward to an improved internet governance initiative, also with the new committee at hand. We're hoping that we'll still continue to be inclusive and also promote a bottom-up and stakeholder approach. And we look forward to working with everyone, those that have been selected to the top 8, even those that were not able to make it to the top 8. We're really looking forward to working with you to scale up initiatives locally, especially in regard to the School of Internet Governance. Thanks very much, and thank you once again. Bye-bye, everyone.